And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. Today we'll be talking about coronal mass ejections, some of which appear to be somewhat Earth-facing, a new merch site, and a slightly tweaked format. I'm your host, Dan, aka smAsho. Let's start things out looking at the sun. And you can see an SDO calibration maneuver happening here. This is in order for the SDO to make sure that it's aimed directly at the center of the solar disk. Coronal hole rotating into the Earth-facing zone there ahead of sunspot 2797. And again, coronal mass ejections have kicked off. Here's a composite view. This is 335, 193, and 94 angstroms. And we saw a C-class solar flare also, which is reflected in the video. We'll tell you the timing on it later in the Daily Space Weather Report. The 10.7 centimeter radio flux is at, good question, where is it at? I can't remember. I think it's at 77. Indeed, 77 solar flux units is the current level of the 10.7 centimeter radio flux. There's the 1-year chart of it, courtesy solon.info. And there's the radio flux of the 2800 megahertz variety. There's the sunspot number progression. And welcome to cycle 25. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Let's take a look at the coronal mass ejection that we see out from the viewpoint of Lagrange point 5 at stereo A. And here you can see coronal mass ejections. Allow me to vanish. And here you can see coronal mass ejections on both sides of the sun. A little bit of missing data there, just around midnight. And the coronal mass ejection on the Earth-facing side released right around midnight. Universal time on the 21st. You can see about 4 hours of missing data there. Actually, more like 6 hours of missing data. And this may be a little bit deceptive as, again, we saw coronal mass ejections on both sides of the sun, which can make the view from the LASCO C2 and C3 a little bit deceptive. So let's take a look at the C2. We've got a bunch of old data on there. That data like 8 hours old. And let's take a look at the C3. This is located at Lagrange point 1, right between the Earth and the Sun, about 1 million miles from the Earth. And if I had to guess, I would say the coronal mass ejection will be missing the Earth to the west. But we'll have to stay tuned to that one. So here's the position of where things are located in the solar system. There's where things will be in a week. And if you're wondering where stereo A is located, stereo A is someplace around here. Stereo B is located someplace around here. That's about where Lagrange point 5 and Lagrange point 4 are located. Next, we'll take a quick look at the fields here on HelioViewer. There are the fields. You can see sunspot 2797. And let's show a couple HelioViewer movies here. Here's 304 angstroms. And you can see that SDO calibration move there once again. Here's 171 angstroms. And we've got some extreme close-ups of the solar flare. The main one was a C-class solar flare. We'll talk about it later. And here's a close-up of sunspot 2797. And it has stayed pretty stable here in the past 24 hours. That's exactly 24 hours of data there. A little bit of missing data there on the SDO magnetogram as well. And let's just talk about some other stuff real quick here before we move on. How about some volcano coverage? If you're wondering which volcanoes have been erupting in the past 24, well, we're going to cover it. Klyuchevskoye is on the list on the Kamchatka Peninsula, flight level 200. It's a 20,000-foot altitude volcanic ash plume. Sarachev Peak, now on the list. An effusive lava eruption has begun, and a new lava flow there in the central Kurils. Another volcano on the list that hasn't been there before is Raung in East Java, now producing a 12,000-foot plume of ash. Sinabung now back on the list as well, flight level 100, 10,000-foot ash plume above Sinabung. Semeru, flight level 120, Popocatépetl exploding down in central Mexico, flight level 190, a 19,000-foot ash plume. Fuego exploding, 15,000-foot ash plume. Sangay exploding, 24,000-foot ash plume. Revenador exploding, 15,000-foot ash plume. And Sabancaya, continuous emissions of gases and volcanic ash are a reminder not to attempt to pole vault the caldera. An earthquake drought continues, as we're really seeing a drought here of 7, 8, and 9 magnitude earthquakes. Don't allow yourself to vanish as a result of an earthquake. Have some idea of which building facades may collapse and which infrastructure may shut down as a result. Let's see what's been shaken over the past 24, and the answer is not much. Although there is a deep quake here at extreme depth, a 5.5 magnitude in the Sea of Okhotsk at a depth of 574 kilometers. So really it is a lull in earthquakes here, folks. Again, a couple in the 5 magnitude range, nothing over a 6 of the past 24 hours. And the magnitude 7, 8, and 9 earthquake drought continues. Here's a deep quake at Papua New Guinea. It's on 4.8 magnitude at 192 kilometers. Here's a Caribbean deep quake at Dominican Republic, 137 kilometers for that. A deep quake in western South America. And a deep quake at Indonesia, a 4.4 magnitude at 305 kilometers depth. Next, we'll look at the real-time solar wind. And we've been seeing anomalies here in the real-time solar wind data reporting. This is, by the way, a one-day graph. And it's not cooperating very well here. Anyway, current solar wind density around 11 protons per cubic centimeter. Current solar wind speed 315 kilometers per second. Background levels there. The KP index, a measurement of global geomagnetism, is at 0. And we'll look at geospace magnetosphere movies next. Here's 4 hours of data on magnetohydrodynamic pressure. And you can see a fairly steady solar wind there represented in pressure. This is in nanopascals. Next, we'll look at ground magnetic perturbations, since we are living through a geomagnetic excursion. We saw a pretty significant magnetic pulse there in the south. Kind of happening all at once right there. Right at about 9:30 Universal Time. Oh, there's a missing data. There you go. An hour of missing data there. It's supposed to be 4 hours of continuous data. We've got some missing. That explains that sudden pulse. Probably not as sudden as it appeared. I'll let it play through a second time here. And this is Geospace Magnetosphere Movies, supposed to be 4 hours of data, courtesy of University of Michigan. We show it daily because you can't access the archived data, which we assume is probably archived. High hopes for that to be accessible in the future. Next, we'll talk cosmology for a quick, brief moment. First, looking at some of our favorite cosmic ray monitors. Here is Apatity, and you can see it's pretty flat over the past 30 days at Apatity in terms of neutrons. Barentsburg, also quite flat over the past 30. Next, we'll go farther south to Athens, Greece. What's going on at the Athens neutron monitor, you ask? Well, we tell. And there it is. It's pretty flat over the past 30 days at Athens as well. Next, we'll go even farther south to the pressure-corrected data from Mexico City's cosmic ray monitor. And there you can see it also flat over the past 30 days. And lastly, we'll look at Oulu and 2 Antarctican monitors. Here's Oulu, Finland. Marginal uptick here over the past 30 days. Here's DOMC Antarctica. Small uptick at DOMC as well. And here's DOMB. A little bit more wild readings there. Small uptick at DOMB Antarctica. And that's the cosmic rays section. Interesting article here on Fornax A, which is the 4th strongest radio source at 1400 megahertz. Why is that relevant? Well, this lenticular galaxy, Fornax A, otherwise known as NGC 1316, is the 4th strongest radio source in the entire sky at the 1400 megahertz range. Why is this relevant? Well, it just so happens that the sun's radio flux is 2800. Excuse me. The sun's radio flux just happens to be 2800 megahertz. Is there some kind of a relationship between distant galaxies and the sun's radio flux? Well, we don't know, but it's part of the reason why we have a channel, part of the reason why we do cosmology segments, as some of us are trying to figure out the mechanism behind the solar cycles. So perhaps read this article. It's on phys.org's Astronomy and Space section. An article about Fornax A, investigated by Astrosat. And again, the 4th strongest radio source at 1400 megahertz, which just so happens to be 1/2 the frequency of the 10.7 centimeter radio flux, which is 2800 megahertz. We would invite all of our viewers to check out our own websites, smashomash.com, smashomash.org. You can find our social media links there. And we've created another merch site. We'll have this linked on our own website soon. It'll also be linked below this video. Check out our links there. Smashomash.com. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Thanks for tuning in. And here's our latest product, Google Defined. And we've branched out into Redbubble. And if you're wondering what the design is, well, here it is. It's about obtaining biased search results. So if you've noticed people have been using the term Google as a verb, well, that's fine. It needed to be amended. So the definition of the term Google used as a verb is to use the Google search engine to obtain biased information about someone or something on the World Wide Web. Usage. Let's use it in a sentence. I Googled it, and now I know less about it. By the way, thanks for tuning in to our Twitch. If you're a follower on Twitch, we are currently streaming live there, twitch.tv/smashomash. Thanks to all of our viewers over at Twitch. Don't forget to press like and subscribe over on YouTube. Press the share button. We need your help to get the videos into more people's brains. So please share on your social media, etc. Get involved. Help us out. Visit our playlists. Don't forget to view our playlists. We've got several of them, such as the Smash Hole of the Week playlist. Smashomash.org presents The Sun, the Smash News Network, Scrying with Smash, where I have a little levity. Thanks to our patrons, the true source of funding for the content. Please consider funding us if you'd be so kind as to open up your cobweb-encrusted wallet. If you'd like to do so, it's patreon.com/smashomash. There are benefits for patrons. Thanks again to our patrons. And that's today's cosmology segment. Let's move on to more data. And the largest solar flare of the past 24 was this C-class flare, which happened at approximately 12:50 Universal Time yesterday. So 50 minutes after midday Universal Time yesterday, we saw that C-class solar flare. And once again, we saw a significant solar flare happening as I did show prep. Is it coincidence? Is it divine providence? You be the judge. Leave us a comment. Let us know. Here's a 3-day chart of the proton flux, and we don't see any proton strikes. Next to those magnetometers, there's the 3-day data set on that. And let me just take a moment to check the life of the stream here. Thanks to everybody that views the videos on the YouTube live premieres. I view the videos on the live premieres as well, because as our regular viewers are well aware, I'm not only smAsho, I'm also a client. Next, let's look at the magnetic environment on the heliospheric current sheet, shown here in polarity. And you can see South Pole polarity in red, North Pole polarity shown in green. Earth is solidly in the South Pole-oriented current sheet, shown in red. Here's the latest frame. Keep in mind the data's an hour and 41 minutes old and can change suddenly with absolutely no warning. And we're expecting fairly smooth magnetometer data here over the next 24 hours. We'll show you it tomorrow as well. It's part of the daily space weather features. Next, looking at the coronal hole field plot. And you can see this South Pole-oriented coronal hole just rotating into the Earth-facing zone here at the end of the movie. And lastly, here is the coronal magnetic field plot. The magnetic field plot of the solar atmosphere. And this one will show you open potential field surface source lines in black, closed potential field surface source lines in pink. And if those are coronal hole potential field surface source lines, they will be in purple. Next, looking at the ionosphere. Looking back at Earth's atmosphere. Here is the last day of the ionosphere data. And we'll pause this on the last image. Here's the latest image coming in at 10:30 Universal Time. And we do show that daily. And now I do vanish daily as well. Next, looking at electrons. Here's the total electron content forecast. And NOAA's expecting a small uptick in electron flux here. I'm expecting a downtick. My forecast is for down here. We'll see what happens tomorrow. And here's the total electron content forecast. This is a visualization from through the inner Van Allen belt. So this is going to show you where your GPS errors will be located as your GPS satellite is in a geosynchronous orbit between the inner and outer Van Allen belts. I'll let it play through a second time. And we're seeing some electron anomalies here over North America once again. Expect to see some GPS errors, especially around noon local time, the primary time when they happen. Here's a 3-day chart of the electron flux as measured by the GOES 16, which measures the electron flux at the F ionosphere layer around 300 kilometers of altitude. And there's a 1-year chart to give you a historical context of where the electron flux currently is, and it's at low levels. Next, we're going to do some meteorological stuff. Here is nullschool.net's jet stream data. And you can see some anomalies in the southern hemisphere, some big kinks, as well as an anticyclone here off of the west coast of Australia. You see that counterclockwise rotation. Anticyclones rotate counterclockwise in Earth's southern hemisphere. Here's the extreme meridional jet stream flow of the northern hemisphere. We have doubled up jet streams over the north, over the lower 48. Looks like they're getting some hot weather in Mexico and some cold weather in the northern Rockies. Check out the extreme meridional jet stream bend there, 180-degree bend over Greenland, as well as a 180-degree bend over the central Atlantic. Next, looking at windy.com's pressure maps. powerful low pressure system there over northern Europe. We'll advance this into tomorrow. Let's use the GFS forecast. There's the GFS forecast, and there's where pressure cells are expected to be at 12 noon tomorrow Eastern Time. And if you're wondering where we're located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Next, looking at a real-time lightning map. I'm interested in lightning and where it's striking. When I hear thunder, I like to head to lightningmaps.org for the real-time lightning map, and we don't see any terrestrial lightning in the U.S. No reason for lightning warnings. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar map, and we've got some heavy rains over places like Tennessee, especially the entire state, with the northeast corner seeing a little bit of wet snow likely falling there, according to Weather Underground's Doppler radar map. And here's a water vapor map over the entire Americas area. And here's what's going on in the cloud layer. And here's a water vapor map for the U.S. And again, there's the cloud layer. Low clouds still hovering over the Atlantic Ocean. And we've got bonus features. So strap yourself in. I would also remind you to press like and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't done so. Press the share button, share on your social media. Tell your friends, foes, science noobs, and science pros about the content. We would greatly appreciate if you did so. Our bonus features are going to be the intensitygram of the local yellow dwarf, as well as the colorized magnetogram latest image. And here's a high-res image of sunspot 2797. Here it is in intensitygram. Again, there's the intensitygram, colorized magnetogram, and most of those umbrae are South Pole. So this is South Pole right here. This is South Pole. Let me just make sure I don't say the wrong thing. We've only got a small bit of North Pole umbrae there, so don't expect any major solar flares, as this is the only North Pole-oriented umbrae now. Now there's a little bit of North Pole there. This one here is actually north. This one's north. And these are south. We could see some more solar flares. Don't be surprised to see some. The likelihood of major coronal mass ejections has actually decreased. And here is the final series of videos that will show the close-ups of sunspot 2797, including that solar flare. And today we're showing you the bar scale with the 22,000 kilometer bar there. There's 304 angstroms. Here's 335 angstroms. And again, that C-class flare happened at 12:50 Universal Time yesterday. Here's 131 angstroms. Here's 171. And last but not least, here's 94 angstroms. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, folks. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink, and if you do, don't drive. Certainly don't drive. No matter how much the government drives you to drink, don't drive. I don't want to see you out there. Now, don't take that too seriously. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Visit our links, support the channel. And may that solar wind be at your back.